I don't know where we start.
The last time I saw you, we were at the Grambling inauguration,
That's
Grambling
right.
mayoral inauguration, and you had some. You were kind of catching me up then about
Yeah.
some events that had taken place freshly after you were reelected.
Yes.
Was there anything going on leading up to that, or
Yes.
did it kind of take off there?
Yes, we actually were elected on October 2nd, and I thought it very interesting that right thereafter the legislative auditors were in my office, and they've been in my office for about 3-4 months since that, and that's okay. But what troubled me was the fact that because there were a few citizens who drove down to the Capitol, and they were they were making a presentation telling the Legislative Advisory Council that I was corrupt. This was the previous council. He's so corrupt. We can't get him to do what we want him to do. He's violating this law. He's violating the Larson Act. They allege so much that opened the floodgate for folk like the Attorney General's office, legislative auditors, and folk to come in to try to check to see what was really going on.
These are former council members that made these accusations.
That's right.
In Baton Rouge against you.
That's right. And what I tried to make clear to the advisory council is that being the first black elected mayor for this town, that there seemed to have been a very, very low tolerance and acceptance by most of these non-black residents, and the things that they were alleging had no substance. And the chairman of the committee kept saying to these council folk, what is it that he's done that's criminal?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and if there is something that he's done that's criminal, you at the wrong place, in that we don't have prosecutory jurisdiction. There's nothing we can do. But they cried out so that they needed somebody to help, and since that time we've been under a serious attack. And the thing that they have done, I mentioned it last night in the meeting. I said, I know that these folk want to say that it's not racial. It's almost offensive for them to say that, for someone to say this seems racist. But I said to him last night, I said, look, after less than 3-4 weeks of being elected, there was a recall petition, that a certain segment of the community tried to get together to get me out of office. And not only do I think a recall should be unconstitutional, in that the people had spoken. The folk had spoken at the poll and said, this is what we desire, this is what we want. And then the Constitution even allows then for there to be a recourse. I don't think there should be a recourse when the people speak.
Yes.
And so for there having not been anything that I had time to do wrong, what do you call it? What do we call it?
Before you continue, can you give me an approximate percentage of the breakdown of racial?
Yes. About 2-3 years before the election, there was a 48-52, in that the whites made 52%, blacks made 48%. But now that's changed. There has been as a result of the new numbers, the census numbers.
Yes.
They show that there has been a 22% increase in population in the town of Jonesboro.
22% increase.
And that's awesome. That's actually awesome. I mean, we knew that we were growing.
I'm hearing stories of many other municipalities, their population's going down.
That's right. We're going to probably be one of the only town in the state of Louisiana. I haven't done the research, but I'm going to be looking. But we're going to probably be in the only maybe 10% of those areas that have actually grown. You see, and
so with the new numbers, approximately, do you know the percentage now? Or are you still waiting for the breakdown?
It flipped. Now the last time I checked, it was 52-48. Blacks being the majority.
Even so, though, you still needed a certain percentage of white voters to get you into office.
That's right. That's right. And so for me, that's why I say it's certainly not racist from that standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
We probably carried about 15%, at least 15% of the white vote. Now, we expect to even do even better than that. And if the truth were to be told, for the hundreds of whites who opted not to come vote, just to not come to vote at all, we consider that to be a part of our support group as well. And I say that because they were of the opinion. You know, prior to now, it's been we can incite the racists. They could get out and say, you know, there's a black man running, and we got to get out and do what we got to do to stop him. They couldn't do that this time. Those folk who opted not to come, an election cycle ago, that wouldn't have been the case.
Do you believe that has something to do with the accomplishments that you had made? Because during
Yes.
your administration, you were quick to note, and I don't know, did you ever put that list of
Yes.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G accomplishments that you had made during this past 4 years? Because you and I have had conversations regarding how you had progressed the town of Jonesboro
Yes, yes.
in a way that hadn't been done
Yes.
in many administrations
No doubt.
before you.
No doubt. And actually,
Okay.
that I think contributes to most of what we're talking about now. Because if you look on the back, you know, they were able to look at the accomplishments, the amounts of money that we brought into the town, and by and large, when you're dealing with the people that are of average intelligence above, folk who want to see their town be progressive,
Yes.
folk that can get beyond the race thing if they can see that there is a benefit to not only their community but to the total community. Those folk, I would say that of the 400 or 500 who didn't come out to vote, probably 70% or greater were folk of that mindset. That while we may not necessarily know him as well as we like, and while we may be a little bit uncomfortable with a change, and that we know that change is usually met with resistance, but they stayed home and said, no, we won't take him out. We'll give him another opportunity to see what more can he do for the town.
So the non-vote was a vote.
That's right. That's the way I see it. So, but I told him last night, man, I said, you know, we've been here not only after the recall of the petition that did not work,
Yes.
it did not work, but then we've been accused of violating the bid law. That came shortly thereafter. We were able to be basically cleared of that because there was no intent when they finished the investigation to violate the bid law. We've been accused of allowing purchases by unauthorized personnel. We've been accused and taken before the ethics board 2 or 3 times since I've been here. We've been accused of fraud, put on the front page of the paper with allegations of fraud. We have, and that fraud was just recently investigated by the Attorney General's office, the local sheriff, and
Yes.
and the state police. We've been accused of money misappropriations.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, and you can jump in any point.
These allegations, they get put on the front page of the paper.
That's right.
When you're found to be completely clear, do you get the same attention? Do you get the same?
No. As a matter of fact, the district attorney who just had a case taken before a grand jury, it was alleged that one of my employees was guilty of animal cruelty, and what they were trying to do was to make it appear or to have him to say that it was something he did that was authorized by me, my office. But before the Attorney General, not the Attorney General, but before the district attorney would just admit that there was no evidence to this effect, he would then choose to convene a grand jury. And I don't, the district attorney does what he feels is in his best interest and all that. But I believe that when you see and on his face that there is no evidence that would indicate that there would be any real possibility of any substance here, I would have much rather have preferred him to take the road that would have said that there is no evidence and therefore it's non-prosecutable. However, he decided to convene a grand jury. The grand jury found that there was no evidence, threw it all out. I think I got maybe a little segment in the paper in the corner or something that said that the guy was not found guilty, but nothing like the months that led to that and the
Big headlines.
That's right. That's right. So we feel that all we can do is pray, and all we can do is continue to do what we know is right. But when you take into consideration all these charges, another charge was being accused of misusing town vehicle. Then there was an accusation. We were accused of refusing to give council monthly bills for their approval before payment. We were accused of entering into contracts with vendors without council approval or knowledge. We were accused of violating the 50% rule of the Governmental Budget Act. We've been accused of hosting birthday parties using taxpayer dollars. We've been accused of hosting gospel concerts without council approval. Accused of untimely adoption of budget as prescribed by the Budget Act law. We've been accused of presenting to the public an illegal document at a public hearing. And we can go on and on. We just went to court the other day where they actually issued an injunction. This group issued an injunction to stop the council from doing what it was elected to do, which is to vote on items that concern the town. We were actually held at hostage. And it was, the threat was that if we should vote on that night, that we would all be taken to jail. This is in the 21st century we're talking about. I think it's wrong, and I think that somehow we have to continue to fight this fight to let it be known that not only in Jonesboro, but all across the state of Louisiana, these things are happening.
Yes.
If not all over the United States, they are happening. And we have to be made aware, and I think my job, or part of my job, is going to be to get the word out that we need to come together as a unit, not just black, but as a unit of concerned citizens, and to do something about it.
Can you tell me a little bit about the change of your previous administration's council, town council, till now, and why?
Yeah.
Kind of put that together for me.
Yeah, very, very interesting in that all but one of the previous council was defeated. And we knew that the people were going to have to make a decision. The decision would be that either we go with the mayor and his vision for the town, or we'd have to replace, dismiss the council. One could not. We seem not to have been able to coexist, and working with a council as a mayor that's not working on the same page, or that does not have the same vision. It's a formula for disaster and for non-progress. The people made that decision at the poll. These folk who actually ran on my ticket, and I'll just say it like it was, they ran from my headquarters, and they all were successful. Now what that does is that it adds a different dynamic to the political arena here. They are not by any means my rubber stamp. That's what they've been referred to by Lincoln Parish News. These guys and girls are very, very intelligent. They have a willingness to learn. They are very, very aggressive in their efforts to learn the Larson Act and how towns are run. And do they have different views than the ones that the council of the past? Yes, they do. They don't just automatically vote against me because it satisfies a certain group of folk. They want to know is what we're trying to do, or what my vision is it in line with what they want to see for the town? And they want to see a nice hotel built.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that we're working on right now. They want to see incorporation, annexation in areas that were gerrymandered in the days of old. These are the kinds of things that they're working on and they want to do. They want to see a balanced budget. They want to see that the money is being utilized in a way that they feel is in the best interest of the taxpayer. That's what they were elected to do, and that bothers that group that's been fighting me.
Yes.
Because now they see that now not only does this administration have a mayor that's moving in a direction that's different from that they would like to see, but he has now a council that's moving in with that same vision.
So they went to that extreme extent of trying to block that council's ability to.
That's exactly right. That's right. And I've never seen it happen before. I don't think it's legal. I don't think it's constitutional. For if in the event that the council had voted something that was wrong, voted something that was unethical, or voted something that should be then the concern of the court, that's something that the court should deal with after it's happened. Not to take away their rights to vote their conscience. That they were elected by the people to do that. So we're very, very concerned about that. And I have not decided yet not to take that further to see if the courts would uphold or what their position would be on that.
Are you allowed to speak? Are you represented by attorney?
I'm not. I'm actually in court right now. One of the council members, the one that's still on the council that didn't get defeated because she had no she had no opponent, but she has accused me of violating her civil right. She had me in federal court. She says that I treat her differently than I treat others. around the board. I don't understand how that could be. I did an 8-hour deposition in Naglish on the 16th of September, and what I told them is that sure, sometimes the mayor and council disagreed, but that's politics. You know, we were elected to be a voice for the people that we serve, and sometimes that view will be contrary. And but that's not to say that that there's a civil rights violation, human. You know, but here we are in federal court to deal with that.
Interesting. The reason I asked you about the legal issue is whether you're represented or not. Did you get the sense that at the judge level that there was anybody working against you, or they were siding with? Did you feel, because you just said it wasn't, you didn't feel it was even legal to take it that far?
Right. I don't know if it was to our advantage or disadvantage to go into court on Thursday 2 weeks ago, for there to have been what they call an ad hoc judge. Not one of the local judges, not one of the ones that actually rotates in the circuit, the second judicial circuit. It was actually a guy that came in, I think, from Baton Rouge, from down south somewhere. So he didn't have, I don't think, any dog to hunt here. He was just listening to the facts, and because the council, the town council, and the council representing the community's interest, had actually worked this thing out before they got to before the judge. It was a matter then of them saying, okay, Thompson violated. They felt that I violated their right to have the public hearing, and what gave them that impression, or what they used to come to that conclusion, was that a question was asked in the public hearing. So mind you that we're not prohibiting or disallowing the public hearing, because we're actually in the public hearing when we're talking.
Yes.
And the guy that represents Lincoln Online News asked the question: are we discussing this document or that document? And when I said we are talking now about this document, he took that to interpret that then we're not here to talk, and we're not talking about the actual document that had been introduced. That was the furthest thing from the case. He knew that we were there to discuss what was in the paper. That's the way the law works. He knows that, but it gave them that window to go to their lawyer and says he's in violation, and in an effort to stop this raise, we got to do something here, and that's what they used to say that I was. And so the agreement was that I would then take 30 days to come back to re-advertise, to resubmit to the paper, to reintroduce, to re-notify, and then to have the hearing 30 days later, which was March 8th. And so we just had that hearing, and then we were wondering, now what are you going to do? Now what are you going to do to stop these guys from being able to vote their conscience? And what they did was to send their lawyer again with a legal threat that if in the event that they do what he had suggested that they shouldn't do, that he would then call in the AG and the FBI. That's where we are.
Now, and so that threat is still lingering, but the vote has taken place, and it's...
Yes, the vote took place. The council decided to vote in the affirmative, to give me the authority to amend the budget so as to be able to reposition assets, so as to have the monies that I needed to comply with the Attorney General's recommend, not the Attorney General, but the Legislative Auditor's recommendation. That recommendation was that I hire a CPA firm to help to oversee our books, and to hire a accountant to help in-house on a daily basis. We just hired the accountant this morning at 10 o'clock. She's at her post, and we'll be discussing the possibility of employment with at least 2 firms, CPA firms, today.
Okay. Let me go back just a little bit. The previous town council, did you feel that they were pro or anti Larson Act? Was there did you notice trend? Did you notice pattern?
Yeah, they would not say either one, none of them, that they were anti Larson Act. I think what their biggest problem was is that they didn't really understand it, and that they were not apprised most of the time about what the Larson Act calls for or requires. And when you're dealing with someone who really doesn't have a real appreciation for the knowledge, they have a zeal, and they believe that what we've been doing for the last 20 years is the way that it ought to be done. But I came in here, and every one of my staff, basically, I would say I guess not everyone. I know all the whites walked out, eventually left within a matter of a few months, and I think that had a lot to do with that business would not be handled in an as usual manner. Traditionally, what they had been doing, or what we had been doing in Jonesboro, could no longer continue to be done that way. When they say, for an example, they accuse me of taking the name of a council member off of the checks, and no longer requiring that they sign off on the check to pay a bill. Well, some folk think that I did that just out of spite, and that it was illegal, it was contrary to the Larson Act. But the fact of the matter was that because I couldn't get them to be in position to sign checks for me, and then sometimes they outright refuse. And the Larson Act, of course, says that there is not a requirement that they be on there. I just had to protect myself by applying what the Larson Act afforded me the right to do.
Yes, sir.
And so when they say, well, but you can't have that gospel concert. That's not, we don't want you to have that. So they would protest and fight against it. But the Larson Act, of course, requires that it states that if in the event that there has been money budgeted for any activity, that I do not, as mayor, have to come back to them to ask if it's okay to have this. The money has been budgeted for it, and that was your consent by Larson Act. But a lot of our clash was just that, in an effort to try to do things different, new, and in my opinion progressive.
Yes.
It went against the grain, and sometimes, as opposed to them going to learn to find out what the Larson Act required and what it compelled us to do by law, they never really did that.